5, 6, 7, 8. Welcome, everybody. This is the Smart in Public podcast. It is a podcast that discusses business, careers, and life through the eyes of PR comms experts. Hi, Katie Duffy. We have another guest on the show
Listen,
today.
I know. Aren't we so lucky that we don't have to do all the work?
Oh my God. And you know what, just based on user feedback, like these are the better ones anyways, apparently. No one wants to hear us yap on. So let's cut to it. We have Gab Ferree on the podcast. Everybody knows Gab from Off the Record, her amazing career that she's had previously at Bumble, and Salesforce, and Slack, and all the great things. We're so excited to have you, Gab. Welcome.
I will say, I am so honored to have slid into the DMs of the Katies and gotten myself a spot on season 2 of Smart in Public because, y'all, the people you have brought on are so interesting. I was just listening to last week's with the CEO of Medium, Eleanor, before that. So, thank you for demonstrating my skills in pitching and letting me on this podcast.
It's so funny because I was just talking to the mixing board group, and they were like, how is it going, like getting people onto the podcast and that sort of thing? And I was like, PR people do not want to talk about themselves. And then the last 2 guests we had Gab who pitched us, and then we had the Medium CEO that pitched us. And I was like, except for these 2 awesome people that everyone should follow suit. Like, please start pitching us. I beg of you, everybody.
We love people slipping into our DMs. That's what we want.
Big fan. Please do. I beg of you. Don't make me do any more booking management. No, we're so happy to have you here. Anyone that might not know Gab, I know we have an international audience. I know that you're, kind of like the face of comms on our LinkedIn's right now. But let's give people a bit of an overview of what you're all about, kind of your background, share in your own words with the world.
You honor me with your high praise, Katie. I have started posting on LinkedIn approximately 90 days ago. So I'm glad that the momentum is happening, because you mentioned that people aren't pitching themselves, because when I was in house, it was I don't know if I was allowed to talk about me in comms and what we were doing.
Such a good point.
To answer your question, for the last 15 years, I've worked in corporate communications, primarily in-house, primarily at tech companies. And along the way, I learned a lot, and recently found myself in a situation where I had the opportunity to be like, what do I really like to do? And maybe I could try my own thing. And I saw a lot of people like you, Katie, doing a great job at consulting, other Katie, going and having all these great roles at places like Salesforce and Anduril. And those were definitely 2 things that I considered. But I asked myself, what do I love? And I love building up comms pros. I love making my team better. I love helping them translate their work to business value. I love building relationships with the executive team and ensuring that comms has a seat at the table. So I launched Off the Record, which is a community for comms professionals. We do training, I do group coaching, we do templates and tools, and most importantly, we have our community. So people can connect and have those conversations that maybe aren't the best for LinkedIn, because maybe we're a little too embarrassed to share it on there and to say, I actually am not sure what to do here, because so much of the time when I was leading comms, I was woefully unprepared for that role. And someone I just happened to be a warm body, and they plucked me and put me there. And I was like, I got to figure this out. I am totally making this up as I go along. Please, somebody help me. Now I know what to do. And now I'm helping others who are in that state or just in the state of wanting to grow.
And what are you seeing? What are you loving? What's been challenging? How has it been going with Off the Record?
My thesis is true that people need a space to have real conversations and connect in a real and authentic way, where you are not, you're more than your title, and you can ask authentic and honest questions, and you can be real. And anytime that I have been transparent and open about my feelings, I was winging it, or feeling insecurity or imposter syndrome, just saying that out loud almost takes away the sting of it. And others have been thank you for saying that, because now I can now feel that those emotions, everyone else is feeling it. It's not just me. There's not something wrong with me.
Yeah.
what I'm loving is seeing the community become something independent of me. Like I'm still obviously very much involved, very day to day. This is my full-time job. It is not their full-time job, but it is my full-time job. But people are connecting, people are helping each other get jobs, people are, having side messages and conversations. And I love that it's becoming something independent of, my wildest dreams when I can make it. And we're only 2 months in. Challenging.
Mhm.
Challenging in a good way. This is the first time, and Boyce, and you talk a lot about this, like this is like I'm creating a business as well. So
Mhm.
like the comms part I can do and like the training, coaching and stuff I can do, but also just really remembering like how do I have like business savvy and value and like learning those skills as well.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this like in one of our initial episodes. We were kind of picking Boysen's brain about kind of going into consultancy. And I'm always like, that was the bit for me that I was like, I just don't know if I have the stamina or the appetite. Like, I feel confident in my comm skills, and I felt woefully underprepared. And I remember thinking about it, in the transition from Salesforce and talking to Katie and like thinking about all the tools you need, thinking about how to set up invoice, like all these things and it's funny because I'm like, man, like, and Katie, I know you've set up your community and it's, very deliberately for people who are trying to build their consultancies and live in that world. And I think it's so important that we build these communities for both as well,
Yeah.
because I think that's one of the harder bits for comms people. I just don't think we learn those things necessarily. Like we go kind of senior into comms roles, but we don't really learn how to build businesses and kind of run that side of it. So I hear you on that. That was the bit that was really daunting to me, I think.
Yeah, I think that especially like in the world of AI, and I know we're going to get into this so much like in this episode, but like having a business mindset is almost one of the only things that we can fall back on and protect our careers and like what we are going to do in the future as comms people. I believe like I honestly think that it's such a challenge going from being an employee to a business owner, because you have to think about what is the product I'm delivering? Like, what is the value that I am bringing? How am I putting myself out there and presenting it? What are the systems that I have in place? Because as a consultant too, like the one trap that you can fall into is you become a glorified employee because you're just doing what your client wants you to do rather than saying, I can solve your problem. Here's how I solve your problem. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's my system that runs in place. Here's your project. Like, I think there is a business mindset that is forgotten or maybe not learned because we're so used to treating every executive, every project, every like launch or whatever, like we are an employee. And so it's really hard to get out of that mindset as a comms person when you first start consulting.
And I kind of want to just dig into that a bit more, Katie's, because I think that one of the benefits of programs like Smart in Public, things like Comms People, things like Off the Record, is that we have an opportunity to really help reshape how communicators present themselves like to their executives or to their clients. And one of the things, Boyson, is like, how do we get people to think like a business owner when they still are an employee? Because the more that you can align the work you're doing as a comms professional to what the business actually cares about, the better off you're going to be. And all the talk, if comms doesn't have a seat at the leadership table or we're brought in too late in the project, like that's a failure of you. That's a failure because you have not demonstrated to the business that you need to be at that leadership table. And so you need to really look at yourself and be like, am I over here like chasing after these deliverables and not over here like actually aligning myself to what the business needs?
Yeah. Yep. It's so interesting that you say that. I just feel like from a consultant perspective as well, like that mindset is so hard to grab at first because I think a lot of consultants are coming into consulting because they've been laid off, So in order to have that conversation with a client or a potential client or an executive, imagine being laid off and going and pitching a client and saying, I can fix this when you've just been told by your former employer that you maybe are not as valued, and I think that's a pathway for consulting for a lot of people. It's admittedly how I fell into it. I think there's some really stellar bomb ass consultants out there that like got to pick that path. But for most of us, I think we're already going in with like a bruised ego a little bit. And so I think it's more important than ever to think about like this narrative that we have across the comms community and the opportunity to pivot it and really define like not just I do internal comms or I do, like thought
Media
leadership.
relations. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like I solve this problem for businesses.
Hmm.
I solve this problem for founders and like almost niching into here's the problem I solve. And then once you're in there, you build trust, you meet that metric, you become a Swiss Army knife, you expand your like tools out, and then you get more work or then you get more responsibility as in-house work.
Bigger remit, in an
But we
in-house
got to
role.
learn how to position ourselves to people that don't know what comms is. That's
But
the
I think
biggest
part
thing.
of it is like, and this is why I really applaud both of you for setting up communities, because I think for too long we haven't really done that. And like if you think about the marketing field, they have great communities going on. They have awards, they have all this, they have a lot, right? And I think, they're marketers. They've done a good job of kind of rallying together. And I often think like CMOs have managed to position themselves in that way. And arguably they are, traditionally more tied to a direct business metric. They can talk about, so like I think, pipeline, all of that stuff. But I also just think they've done a better job of rallying as a community and an industry to say like, this is what marketing does. This is how we can deliver. Look at all these amazing things. And I think comms too often, because we're quite varied in what we do and no comms job is necessarily exactly the same. We've sort of all, I don't know. I just feel like we haven't done a great job of like unionizing is the wrong word, but like, coming together and going, this is our narrative. This is why we need a seat at the table. This is what we do. And let's all kind of get together and make sure we support each other in the learning to get there, all of that stuff. So I think it's great that you guys have started this, and I know there's others out there too. So it's good. I think the tide is starting to turn, hopefully.
Do you think it's because we're not good at metrics? Like marketing is like all metrics. So we're like, we do this to achieve this metric. Like, here's our fucking funnel, like what?
I think we're not good at talking about business impact. Yeah. And that's kind of, I think Gab's point is like, we need to be better at understanding what is the business trying to do? Where are they trying to get to? And how do we directly align to that business impact?
Yeah.
And like too often, I think we're kind of, I just think we haven't traditionally been great at that. And traditionally it is harder to measure what we do. Like intrinsically as comms people, we know, or as humans, that if I hear something really interesting about a company, I'll probably Google them. Like if I read an article, if someone, so like we know that works, right? But how do you kind of measure that? That's quite tricky because, there's traffic coming in, all of that sort of stuff, but you can't directly go, it was that article that drove that. But we know as humans that happens. I think, we have, in the early days, relied too much on advertising metrics like dollar value, which is just not the same thing. And so we kind of borrowed from that part of the world for want of a number, but I don't know if that served us. So I just think anyway, that's my rant about metrics.
I like to just try and like talk in ways that someone like can finish listening to this podcast and then do something different like later that day or the next day. And so I think one of my best pieces of advice on this topic is when you are delivering communications results, always top line it with what the business goal was. So for example, our business goal with this new product launch was to educate our users about X new feature. One key way we did that was through X press coverage, right? Like I didn't say funnel, I didn't say metrics, but at least I just used the words to remind people like why I'm here, why I'm speaking, why you care about this. And then Duffy, to your point about like marketing metrics, I don't think that there's like a silver bullet of like the perfect like revenue driving comms campaign, but I do think that there are hacky ways and things that we can do that we haven't done. Like, do you have access to Google Analytics? Was there any sort of spike in traffic the day after? Do you have access to a sales revenue platform like Gong where you can hear sales conversations? Are there ever any mentions of PR? Like there are these little like things that you can do to just start getting a couple of wins that have numbers behind them, but we shouldn't be numbers driven because that's not exactly what we're doing. We should be business driven And you
Yeah.
can be business driven without being like, this is how many leads I drove. You just have to align what you're doing and the outcomes you have with what your business cares the most about.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you're right. I think there's little bits and pieces you can pull from in the language that the business is used to. So I think finding those hacks where you can show those numbers is great, but bringing us back to we're a strategic partner and this is where we deliver for the business and why, you know? And I think most of the time in my experience, if you can do that, then the C-suite is very receptive.
I think showing that strategic level is so important when you get to a certain point in the relationship with like your comms team and the executives as well. Only because you don't want to seem like a tactic in a part of a product launch, you know, like I think that's the biggest piece. And I think from a consultant standpoint, you know, we get a lot of questions around like, you know, they want me to you know, and one side they want me to be a strategic partner, but on the other side, like they need me to make them a flyer in Canva, and I'm kind of like, well, that's literally consulting. Like you are here to solve whatever problem is for that founder, for that company. Sometimes that means we're making fucking flyers in Canva. You know what I mean? But you get to own the message on that, and it's your message that you created. So like there's no in consulting, and I think that's one of the misconceptions of people thinking like I'm gonna go in and like have a meeting a month and make 15 grand on retainer, and you know, like it's not that. From a career perspective, then I want to pick your brain a little bit more about what you're seeing with off the record members too. So like what are the comms people in the group like thinking about in terms of their jobs? Like what are they anxious about? What are they excited about? Like what's the scuttlebutt in there, Gab, about what's going on career wise?
Okay, I can tell you what they are thinking about, and then I can tell you what they should be thinking about.
Okay,
So
good positioning. I like this.
generally, career transitions, market uncertainty. How do I show up great for this interview? How do I negotiate a raise? How do I negotiate a promotion? Kind of like your standard stuff, which I think is really normal, especially when people join a community and they're not your coworkers. So you can ask them these type of questions. You can be like, is my salary in line? Or you can talk about the fact that you're interviewing even if you are employed somewhere else, right? So I think that like that is a lot of what I hear about job transition and sort of that like I don't know, corporate hugging, whatever the new term is, where like people are sort of hanging on to jobs that they otherwise wouldn't because there's a general sense that the market is bad. I'm seeing good signs. Like a lot of my people are getting interviews, a lot of people are getting job offers, a lot of people are getting promotions. So I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom. And some people who have been on the market for a long time are landing jobs. So that's good. I think it's like just a general thing. Here's what I think they should be thinking about from their career is how do I become the single most valuable resource on my team when it comes to AI? How do I lead and build systems that make our team vastly more productive? How do I become the person on my team who understands agentic search and earned media's influence on agentic search? How do I become the vibe coding master of this organization? How do I become indispensable? Because I know AI is the future and I'm going to be the AI person on the team.
Yeah.
That's the question we should be asking. And that's what, I mean, and to give my community members the respect they deserve, they're showing up to these sessions and these trainings and these workshops that we're doing on these exact topics, and they're taking that to their business. But like that for the comms community at large, like is where we need to start going.
And do you feel like we're behind as an overall community? Do you think we've been too slow?
So I have recently done a survey with Axios HQ, and we surveyed 171 communications pros, and we found everyone is using AI. 100% of the respondents are using AI for work. And the majority of those people are in what I would say like the intermediate stage of using AI. The majority, like 80%, are intermediate. They're prompting, getting gut check feedback. They all think that everyone is in the advanced stage. They all think everyone else has systems figured out, have operationalized everything, have done all of these things, but actually everyone's just still in that middle phase. So I don't think that we're behind. I think we're right on time. Like in the years and evolution of how like good AI. See, the thing that's interesting to me is people are still asking for prompts. And I'm going to give them prompts. I'm going to work on a prompt, but like I'm going to give that to them. But like you actually don't need to be that good at prompts anymore because the systems have gotten so much better. So it's like you have to be good at experimenting and you have to be good at trying and you have to be good at reserving the time in your day to do it, because what we found in our research is those that are advanced users, they are far less likely to say that what is preventing them from using more AI is that they don't know what to build. And they are far more likely to say that the reason they're not using AI is because they don't have time, which means that when people see what's possible with AI, it's capacity, not imagination, that becomes the stopping point for them. So we have to allow ourselves to use AI, get a little time back, use that time to get better at AI.
But why are comms people so afraid of AI? Like, I feel like the fact that they're like, oh, I don't use AI because I don't know how to use it. And I'm like, you could literally fucking ask AI how to use it for this situation and it will tell you an idea. Like, it's really like, it's so interesting to me that that is the sentiment that we have, or that's where we're at, maybe is a better way to put that.
Yeah, that aligns with the data that we have. So most people say that the top blockers for them to use AI are time, skills, or not knowing what to build. And very few people say that like their tools are restricted. So it's not like my company's not letting me. It's just that like I'm not really sure what to do.
Yeah. That's interesting though, because we talked about that with Eleanor last week or 2 weeks ago, where companies don't have a policy around AI. Like that's such an issue, I feel like, from a comms perspective.
And our data found that while 84% of companies are promoting heavily the use of AI, less than half actually have a policy. But for those who do have a policy, those people are a lot more likely to be in this advanced bucket. They're also more likely to be talking about how AI is making their work better. So we're finding that 93% of our survey respondents say that AI is somehow making like their work better, faster, more clarity, more confidence, more strategic, but only 41% are changing how the perception of their work is. So they're using it, but they're not telling anyone. And to get to your question, why are AI people so bad, is because the first thing AI can do is write. And that's us. We're the writing people, right? Like that's my job. And so like you no way you could write as well as me. I'm telling you, my bot can write better than me. And me and my bot work real well together to make sure that my stuff is the best it can be. And I do first drafts. Sometimes people have the bot do first drafts. I always do first drafts. It makes it better. But like if all I can do is write, then I'm done. I'm toast. Because the AI
doesn't that come back to how we've been positioning ourselves as well? Because yes, we can write. Sure, that's a one part of our skill set. I would say that's the least thing I would promote as like the thing that I'm really, really good at in my job. Like
never in my life as a comms person has someone been like, what's your number one skill? And I'm like, I'm a great writer. Like never.
You're surprised at how many times I see chief communications officers say this is the single most important skill out of their communicators. Whether it's like storytelling or like something like adjacent to writing, but like, it's not my greatest skill either.
I would almost challenge that like people don't know what storytelling means to us versus to them as well though. So like what they might think that is writing. Like, you know, I feel like it's the comms bubble, like the trap of the nuance in language as well, of like, which comes back to our narrative.
Well, I would also argue that I've worked with a lot of comms people who cannot write. But they might be really good at something else. Like that's fine. Like it's not I just don't think it's a universal thing that we are all these great, fantastic writers. And I think we need to just get over that. Because I agree with you. I think that is something I hear a lot as well, is like, but we do that. Like that's us. And I'm like, well, kind of, but I've really read some terrible press releases in my time, or like terrible op-eds that like team members, and I'm like, this person's not a writer. They might be great at relationships. They might be great at talking in a business acumen way. They might have worked in the, there's so many other skills they might have, but some people don't have that. So I think we just need to be like, cool, and to your point, we can work with the bots. It's a collaboration, but I just think we need to lose that sense that that's the skill that AI is going to that's not it. That's not what I would think my stakeholders say that is my thing that they really value me for.
I would also say that yeah, sure, we don't all need to be good writers, but I think more than anything, what we need to be good at is messaging. We are the messengers. We create the words that go into the projects, into the bots. That, you can't feed bot message into bot. You've got to be good at messaging. You have to understand that business. You have to understand your executive. You have to understand the landscape in the industry. And you need to be, for lack of a better term, a storyteller. You need to create that messaging. And it needs to be human. You need to be able, from an executive standpoint, you need to feel a breathing human behind an executive's message. You can't, if it smells like AI, if anyone gets a whiff of it, it's going to come off as inauthentic, and I think that authenticity is what is going to go away with a lot of messaging that is created out of these bots. So metaphors, personal examples, customer stories, ums and uhs, in your language, people are gonna want to hear a living, breathing thing behind that executive. Yeah. And I think that's where our role is going to start leaning into more.
But that is similar to growth in communications profession, right? As you get more senior, the less you're actually putting words on a piece of paper, the more you're actually working on the messaging and the more that you're working with executives to bring that messaging to life. And so, Boyce, I know you talk about this, but it's congrats, you all just got a promotion. You now have an assistant account executive who's doing a lot of this more tactical kind of grunt original work. So you have a chance to do that higher order thinking, which our survey shows that more people are using AI for what I would call higher order thinking than the rote content creation tasks. So they're using AI to gut tech strategies and actually build messaging frameworks than they are to rework content for other resources or do media relations or write out internal comms. So we're already even going so advanced that we're even using this not for the rote task, but for higher order thinking and able to do a little bit more push and pull with that.
What do you think that means for skills and what are going to be the most important skills that we have as comms people then?
We need to know how to think. We need to be wildly we need to be wildly in tune with our stakeholders. Our ability to stop the crisis before it happens will be far more important because we're not spending all of this time with these rote tasks. We will be able to give more thought into these things. And one thing that I've been laughing at myself about is that AI probably told the Cracker Barrel people that their new logo was great because AI is so good at telling you how good you are, right?
Have you seen that South Park episode where Stan's dad is he's using ChatGPT to build a new version of Integrity Farms, the marijuana farm that he owns, and he's turning it into a tech company, and then all of a sudden they're microdosing ketamine and they're real tech founders now, and AI is yes, you're doing great. I love your ideas. Anyway, you just reminded me of that. I watched that last
I will
night.
take any Integrity Farms reference in any conversation I have for work, so I'm absolutely here for it.
Perfect. Sorry, I interrupted you. But yes, I agree. Continue.
No, that's it. It's just that, the nuance of understanding the reality of the real humans that are going to be impacted by the decisions of the business is going to be so important because we know that AI is the sum medium, right? Yeah. But it's not the average that's going and having chaos created for your brand online. It's the edges, right? And that is our responsibility to just be a lot more aware of how the real humans are going to react to this bot generated stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that the human piece of it is so important, and we were just talking about, almost to the point where events and people coming together and the job of the comms person will become maybe again it'll come full circle
and we will be the ones that are like the ones that are bringing together more community, more relationships. We are the fosterers of like what a relationship looks like for a company and for an executive, and we are the masters of weaving that web. But like I almost feel like there is this moment where people are going to get tired of AI and swirling and like more information, more information, more information, and people are having a hard time keeping up. Their dopamine levels and their serotonin's through the roof and like depleted and up, which way is up and which way is down. And I feel like people are going to take a breath and be like, should we just go to an adult summer camp and like leave our phones at home? Like, I honestly feel like there's something like that is going to happen.
Well, there's kind of a movement back to, like people are listening to records again. We talked about this with Tony a little bit from Medium. But I do think for comms people, remembering the human element in all of this is going to be very important. The relationships, the storytelling, the feeling of the employees. Like an AI can't detect when there's the undercurrent, running through your employee base about something. Like I think comms has this really crucial role to play to kind of keep some of that humanity in the business. And so I just would encourage us to like think about that. And, we're still seeing, you guys probably didn't see this because it's a very unique Australian example this week, but we saw a consulting firm was hired by the government to do a big report on a particular area. And I think they got paid like $500,000 to do this report. And the report has since come out and they've found that some of the quotes are non-existent quotes, and some of the citations were completely wrong. And there is a big theory that they used AI to do a lot of the report.
That's
and like talking about kind of hallucinations and some of this stuff. And in my head, I was just thinking, and so they've been called out on it, and it's sort of, there's a big thing going on at the moment. It's not super resolved yet. They've sort of made one comment about it. They've fixed some of the citations, but they haven't outwardly come out and said, yeah, like we used AI and it made mistakes. They've sort of hid behind it. And I just think it's something we need to be careful of, that these things are not perfect either. And that's where, again, comms need to be kind of, this goes back to, I guess, the policy, I think, as well, is like, how do we have a seat at the table when we're designing policy around what content can be produced by AI, who checks that content, and who makes sure that, because this is a taxpayer funded report, right? This is people's money that the government has paid to this consulting firm. Like it's pretty wild, but I just think that's something as well, like from a comms team perspective, how do you make sure that comms is at the table when that policy is being developed, that we think about content production, who gets to produce content through AI, what does that look like, what are the checks, all of that sort of stuff.
And like, I'm fine with your consultant using AI for this report. Just don't pay them $500,000 for it, right? Like, and I think
right. Like, don't cite research.
That's
what the AI, that's the risk of AI right now, is that it can create these, hallucinations.
But the fact that no one fact check it, like that's a failure of the consultancy, right?
It's wild, isn't it? Yeah.
And so, Duffy, your story reminds me of something that's happening in the US right now, which is J. Crew is getting blasted on the internet for an ad campaign they did with Vans shoes, and it was AI generated. And I think the problem isn't so much that it's AI generated, it's, to your point, it's like the disclosure. And I think comms people can be the brand protectors and be like, what activities are okay for us to use AI for and what aren't? And when you're J. Crew and you're like an authentic, all-American type of brand, your users are going to probably revolt when you stop hiring real models and real stylists and real photographers to shoot this type of content. Versus if you are literally an AI company or a tech company, like your users aren't going to care that much if you do advertising through like AI generated. So like the idea of an AI disclosure policy where you like have, like you said, Duffy, those metrics of like, what do we allow? What don't we allow? You publish that. When you put out content to the world that has AI generation, you link to the policy or whatever it is. And then soon, like the brouhaha around it is going to die because using AI generated content for marketing campaigns is going to be as prevalent as using Photoshop. And to your point about records, the real differentiator would be the brands who actually aren't using AI generation, the ones that like actually use like real human photographers and stylists. So I think we're going to see that. And I think like as comms people, like we know this from always, like be transparent, disclose, like be earn trust, right? Don't break it. And I think like we just have to come back to some of those basics when it comes to like how our companies are using AI and then delivering that product out.
I think part of the challenge at the moment is nobody really knows where this sits, right? Like, does it sit in IT because it's a tool, right?
Oh,
Like, what are we
totally.
allowed to use?
Such a good
There's
point.
that kind of piece of it. There's the legal piece of it, and I think there's a huge comms piece to it, but I think at the moment it's sort of like floating between teams and also to some extent HR, because there's a huge people impact for some of this stuff, right? What tools you use might impact what people you need. And we're already seeing that, right? We're seeing companies lay off people using AI as the, reason. And so I think it's one of those, and this isn't unique to AI. Like this has happened before where there's something that sits within a company that sort of sits in a few different places. But I think that's when you really need to come together as a C-suite and go, who are the right people that we need to sit on this? And what voices do we need to craft this policy and what we're going to do? And comms has to be in there. So does marketing, quite frankly, from an overall brand perspective and depending on how your company is structured, but some version of comms and marketing, legal, HR, and then, IT, because it's actually implementing the tools that are going to. So, but I just think at the moment it's sort of sitting in 10 different places and nobody's really taking leadership. And that's an opportunity, I think, for comms to say, right, I'm going to set up this council and we're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Our data demonstrates that as well. So it's totally bifurcated. Most companies, like a third, say it's in tech, and then after that, like you said, like HR, legal, even comms sometimes are owning it. But only half of the companies that we surveyed like even have any sort of training. So there's this huge gap where I think it's a communication leadership gap. Like I think we as the communicators, you're saying like no one knows who's in charge. Like I want to be in charge. Like, let me be in charge. This is the greatest transformation technologically, like since ever. I want to be at that table. Like maybe it doesn't fit squarely in comms, but I'm willing to take the challenge, and I'm willing to lead this across our company because I do think it is it's a total work change, and I think communications is critical in that, and it puts us at the seat of the table so that when those layoffs do come, it's like, well, the comms team is really helping on all this AI evolution that we're using as the reason. Maybe we stay off the chopping block, maybe.
One question I have though is off of all of this then is like, what are the situations where AI should never be involved in communications? We're talking a lot about like systems and projects and, all of that stuff where we can make it better, but like, where should it never be?
I wrote down none. No. And let me give you some spicy takes here. Okay. All right. So
I wore red just for you, Gab.
I'm going to go to sleep tonight and I'm going to think of all these things where AI shouldn't be used in comms. But right now I'm just feeling heated and I'm just going to say none because I think that AI helps you get from what you need to an output like in just such a more effective way. So a few weeks ago, there was a big hoopla on the internet because someone was pitching out a tool that helped automate reaching out to HARO requests. HARO, help a reporter out, these sort of like quotey, whatever. Like a journalist needs a source, you have a source, you connect, right? Like comms people were up in arms, the fact that like there would be an AI about this. And like, okay, I get it. But if the goal is to help overworked journalists get to good sources and there's a tool that's going to help a good journalist get to a good source faster, like, what do I care? Like the fact that it happened, the fact that it wasn't so painful, like we all remember being the account executive, reading those HAROs every single day and how mind numbing that activity is. Like the fact that you're saying that there's a tool that can like get those journalists, those sources faster and easier is like a bad thing. I disagree. Same thing with media pitching. I know reporters don't want AI slop. I don't want you to get AI slop. But if there's a tool that can help me automate some of this like research and customization, and I know I have a good story that this reporter is going to care about, then why is that a bad thing? And I get it again, like I can hear the contrarians like on me at this right now, but like I truly believe that you should lean into this, that the end goal is not the effort you're putting in, it's the outcome.
I think the outcome, but also the one thing that I will the hill I will die on is just the humanizing the language. Like you can't, you gotta have a humanized element to it. That doesn't mean we can't use AI to like iterate and, have the structures put in place. And then we go through and we humanize that messaging. But I think like and this isn't answering the question specifically of like where AI should never be involved in comms. I just think it's important to stress that like we can yes and this pretty hard, and I think we need to put a stake in the ground on you need someone to be your gut check, to be your business therapist, to be your like humanizer of messaging. You at least need one in some capacity, because the most important thing that founders and that companies are fighting for right now is narrative. Like founders and companies are fighting for narrative right now. They're fighting for a story that is different in the market, that is not beige, that is not written by AI, that is not using the same buzzwords as everyone else. And the only thing that is going to pull us out of that is a human in the loop, I think.
Co-sign, totally agree. I am never advocating for someone to just put things in and then send it out without like any editing or like.
I didn't really answer that question specifically.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but to your point, like
I think we're all saying the same thing. Is like maybe nothing, but the risk of AI is when you remove a human on or in the loop, right? So it's not about, I think, what should and shouldn't be in AI, because I think that comes down to what you're doing, what you like, all of that stuff. For me, it's like I really worry about losing the humanity, losing the gut check, losing the feeling. Like, so for example, like if you are laying off people and you are doing a generic, like I just think there's a lot of things that we need to remember who is at the end of that communication. And, and again, like our customers are people, our employees are people, with lives, with families, with layers. And so some of this stuff, I think the more you automate and the more you kind of genericize stuff, you lose the people element of it. And so I think I kind of agree that there's nothing that shouldn't go through AI to make it more efficient, to be faster, all of those things.
Yeah.
But and this comes back to, in my view, the policy is like, what are the layers of check? What are the layers of like, does this resonate? Is this the right language for us? All of that stuff. And that bit takes time, but I don't think that's the time we should be losing. Like, I think we can gain that time by some of the efficiencies that these tools can get us. But I do worry about that, because I think we are starting to see, and this maybe comes back to training too, is like, if I'm a junior and I can do something super fast in AI, like, do I have the skill set to check that? Am I at that point in my career where I know what isn't right? I feel like when we've had 20 years of working, we kind of have a good sense, but I don't think younger people necessarily do, and they are digital native and they are probably AI native, a lot of these people coming through. So I just think that's the bit that we need to figure out, is like, how do you learn that gut check, and how do you learn that, if all you've ever used is AI for stuff? I mean, like, young people scare me today in the sense of what they use ChatGPT for. I'm
Not
like,
just because they're judging me of wearing my running shoes without socks. Anyways, let's get back into this. Here's a question. Here is a question that I have kind of relevant to what we were just saying about roles as well, and like barrier to entry. Like, what does the future comms ladder look like then with AI in the mix?
We, like, as a comms industry, joke that like agency is academy. Like, agency is where you like go to learn like everything you need to know about comms, because they're not teaching it in college, right?
Yeah.
And I think like we need to teach how to think, not how to pull media reports, right? Because AI is going to automate so much of what we used to have our like junior staff doing, and doing those rote tasks taught us a lot. However, like, a human shouldn't have to do things an AI can anymore. So I think that we are going to have to be really deliberate on how we train up people, because it's not the tasks per se that are going to train them. It's us that have to like demonstrate thinking. And I think we can do that through like case studies or analyzing like specific situations. I think that senior comms leaders need to dedicate time to mentorship and talking through things live, like hearing their thinking and evaluating and critiquing that thinking and helping them think better. This is through retrospectives, like what could we have done better? Like, again, everyone just got a promotion. Like, people are coming in at a higher level now because those rote tasks are automated and they're not going to have the value of time and experience to learn the thinking side of it. So we need to be like really deliberate on bringing that like MBA style learn how to think into like our actual work, because I don't have like a lot of hope like comm schools are adapting for AI training right now.
No. It's funny, like on one of my Substack posts that I did, some guy commented and was like, because I was talking about the shifting roles and what that's going to look like for the future of comms based in AI. And he had an interesting comment that like keeps coming back to me about like, so what does that mean? Everyone's going to start at like a senior manager level. And in my head, I was like, I think we're going to throw the levels out. Like, why do we need to have these rigid descriptions of like what each role means based on our experience now? Like, I think that's going to change or shift or go away. And the barrier to entry is going to be, I mean, for the like, it's not going to be about reporting and coverage clipping and, you know, that kind of thing anymore. It's going to be about going in and learning straight out the bat, like or getting connected to journalists and building relationships. It's like walking the floor at a conference and knowing how to navigate through that environment. Like those are going to be the barrier entry skills that they need to learn all over again. And AI is just going to be a part of like the tools and systems that just already exist within the business.
Yeah, dealing with that uncertainty. If I grew up in a place that had titles, I would not be where I am today. Like I did most of my career at startups that refused to use titles. And
Really?
because of that, I was able to do work far above and beyond what someone at my years of experience should have been enabled to do. So I totally agree that I would love a future where we don't have titles. First off, because I think I waste way too much time on promotions. I think that whole thing is just exhausting when it's like we should just reward our people and pay them enough that they like feel rewarded.
But also like shouldn't we just want to be learning and growing anyway? Like promotion and like self label is such a weird part of society at work, I feel like.
Because it's the only like barrier to advancement that we've allowed like ourselves to have. And at, you know, all this time with these companies, like there weren't any promotions. Like that whole, like imagine all the time you spent on promotions and writing those business cases and reviewing them and getting the HR training. Like we never had that. We just worked.
Yeah.
And then like sometimes we would get salary increases.
As a consultant now, thinking about trying to get a promotion makes me want to die inside. And like also thinking about the time that I'd spent in corporate worrying about it. Dusty was my fucking boss for like 8 years. I think like the conversations that we had or like the tears like that I've cried when I like didn't get to that level or things like that. Like, and now I look back on it and I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Like, it's so weird. Like promotions are so weird.
I think there's like a whole like shift. I just want to circle back on something about like the junior roles because like I didn't get into PR because I wanted to do media reports, right? Like,
yes,
like that's not why I joined, like why I thought PR would be good for me. And by the way, I did a degree and was like, I don't know what this is. I'll give it a go. But I think why I did is like fundamentally a couple of things. It's like I just really enjoy, you know, for want of the better term, storytelling. I've always been a reader. I love consuming news. I love thinking about ideas. Yes, at that point in time, I think I'm an okay writer and writing was a skill set I had coming out of school. So there were a couple of things, but like it was, you know, ultimately, I think those things don't necessarily change, right? It's like, are these people hungry to build relationships? Do they want to learn about a business? Are they interested in storytelling? Are they interested in humanity and culture and things that like, and the news and what's happening in the world? And like I used to hire for people who I'd be like, what's an interesting story you read this week in the news? And it doesn't have to be about what, you know, the tech company. It's like, tell me what interests you. Like, are you reading? Are you interested in the world? I would like to say that hasn't changed. So therefore, what the work that they're going to be doing is just different to what we did, right? But you're still going to need young, hungry minds who want to learn the business and who want to learn how to do comms. So I think like, to some extent, this like and this goes back to the levels. It's like, forget the levels, like what people come in at and what that looks like. Like we need to get over that and just go, what skill sets do we need in a comms team today? and they are different. Some are fundamentally the same and some are going to be different. We don't need someone who's like really good at admin because that's going to be done, right? So what are we hiring for? And I hope that it will also encourage people who are from a different background to come into comms, because I think that's the other thing we're going to need more of is people who have expertise or who have creativity as their background, like someone who's done something completely different but has a really different way that their brain works. I think we just need to think a bit differently about what a comms team might be made up of.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
some of that is like, yes, people like us who've been doing it for a long time and kind of have that skill set. But when I look at like if I wanted to hire a younger comms person, there'd be certain things I would look, and some of them haven't changed. Like I still want someone who's really interested in the world and stories and thinking about, because I think if you can have that well-rounded view, then you are more likely to understand the world in which your business operates, right? And like where are those moments where you can push and flex and where do you need to tone down, all of that stuff. But there'd be other things I'd be looking for these days as well, because I don't need someone to do, the press release writing or the media reports or whatever it is.
Yeah, one thing that I love is like strong opinions and being able to sit in your opinions and like make those decisions, because the bots are going to give you both sides, right, on anything. And it is really not their skill. Like we have to be the one that's like, ultimately, this is where we're going to go. In comms, everything is gray. There's no black and white. There's no right or wrong answer. There's only like good decisions. And we're going to have to continue to be the ones who are opinionated, who vocalize those decisions and who can have impact in our businesses to help the business not make the mistakes that would like cause, the chaos that we see from a lot of brands.
I think in general, and I find the like junior conversation quite interesting, because I think every industry is going to have a similar version of this. Like lawyers have been hiring junior lawyers to do grunt work for years, right? Where they're like paralegals and they're doing like all the filing and all of the like a lot of that is, but I think every industry needs to start thinking about talent, right? And how you're going to bring talent along in this new world. Marketing similar, like everyone's going to have a version of this of like, what are we going to do about talent? What are we going to do for young people coming up? And the flip of it is these young people are using this every day in their lives every day. Yeah. And we are learning it because it's new for us. It is not new. Like this is how they operate their lives, right? And so that is a good thing. I want those people on my team because my God, they're going to be so much better than I am at what these things can do. So that's the other like flip of it is like, let's not discount that is a skill set that's going to be native to a lot of these people coming up.
I have a hot take just based on that. You just put this in my brain. So what if the future of like education, because AI is level the playing field, say it's level the playing field across the lot. What if the future of education is that, college becomes obsolete because it's all about human experience in whatever way you want to go in the direction you go, because you don't need any of that grunt work anymore?
Wow.
College becoming obsolete is actually a whole nother TED talk of mine, especially with like the proification of sports. Sports is the only reason colleges exist, in my personal opinion. They are a funnel for the NFL and the NBA to get talent.
Very American take there, guys.
Because college is not like a social experiment for you.
It's not a sports feeding vehicle at all. Like there are rugby teams probably aligned, but like in general, that's not where our sports like come from. So I think it's just a different, but I think it's similar in that I think universities have a really, I guess, need to have a hard look at themselves, I think,
100%.
in terms of how they're structured and what they're teaching. I would hope that people go to university to learn those human skills, conflict resolution, group projects, all that stuff that we hated at university, like where you had to do a group project and there's always someone who's so shit that you have to carry them through. But that's
100%.
work. Like that's also corporate life. It's like it represents the microcosm of corporate life is the university group project.
It is.
But also like creativity, like there's a lot of things we could be building into those courses. And then I think like we're also talking from a very corporate point of view. Like I would like our nurses and doctors to still go to university, but maybe AI assists them in their learning, right? Like I think maybe it doesn't take 6 years to become a doctor. Maybe I don't know. I'm not in that field, but I do think there are some professions that need some level of like that level of education.
I just think about like the learnings that I had in college for my degree, and I got a public relations and communications degree. Like I was like, I'm doing this, and it was not the same. I mean, I've told the story 100,000 times. I got fired from my first PR job because I had like came out thinking I knew it was going to happen, and because got a college degree in it, and I was like, man, this is nothing like my degree, and I suck at it, and I need
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
guidance.
I think the whole education system is going to have to fundamentally, and then of course they're dealing with all of the issues with AI content production, right? It's like,
Yeah. Take a long, hard look at yourself, education.
there's like, you know, all of that stuff. Yeah. Let's solve that today. Let's solve the tertiary.
Every industry is having the exact same conversation that we've been having right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope so.
Anyway.
No one has relegated themselves and been like, we're obsolete. It's all good. Pack it up.
Oh, good. No more.
Oh my God. Can you imagine though, like the fear you would feel if you were just about, like if you were 5 years from retirement and you were like, oh shit, like what is about to happen to my career or my job? Like I feel I feel sympathy for the older generation where it was already hard enough for them to figure out how to make something into a PDF. And
I
now
don't
they're
feel
like,
bad for them at all. They're 5 years from retirement. I feel bad for the college grads who just majored in computer science and know how to code really well and don't know how to do anything else.
yeah, fair enough. Don't know how to.
Oh,
The boomers are the richest generation of all time. Like they're fine.
They're going to be fine.
But
are
they're
they
like
happy?
401k because of AI is like up 9 million%. They're fine.
I see. It's funny. We all have a different take. You're worried about people nearing retirement and like the overwhelm. You're worried about college grads doing computer science. I actually worry about everybody in the middle. I think the middle is where you are highly at risk of losing your job because you are like juniors are less expensive and they'll probably take a job because they're looking for, you know, so I think from a corporate perspective, that's a little bit, and then if you're really senior, you've probably got to that point. It's probably like harder for the business to, you know, if I'm talking kind of C-suite and maybe the next layer down. I think if you're sitting in the middle, and then this is to your point, Gab, circling very back to the beginning, is like if you are not taking control of this now and saying, I'm going to learn it, I'm going to show that I know how to do it, I'm going to show how valuable I am, I think you are at risk because I just think that's the bulk. And companies are looking at where can we automate to get rid of the bulk. That's my view. So I think across us all, it sounds like everybody should be worried. So how do we end on a positive note?
Enlightenment brought to you by the Smart and Public podcast.
I mean, I worry. Like I'm not necessarily worried. Like
I'm fine.
I look at you.
I just, as I said that, I stabbed a thumbtack into my notes.
Yeah, so you're fine. You're really fine. No, I actually am not that worried because I do believe in the human side of a lot of this, and I think
we as humans have overcome many technological transformations and have been better on the other side. I don't think this is the one time it's not going to work out for us. I could be wrong, but I do think that we will come out the other side. But the people who leaned into innovation and technology are the ones who are most likely to come out on the other side successful without the hardness in between.
They're the ones that are going to make the most money right now. Let's be honest. Like if you are the one leaning into AI right now and you're getting the right skills and you are becoming a leader in your organization in like all of the projects, you're the one that's going to get promoted. You're the one that's going to win clients. You're the one that's going to make the most money right now. But I think you're completely right, Gab. Like the analogy that Scott uses all the time is, you know, when the car was invented and the wagon wheels and all of that stuff, they're like, what's going to happen to our industry and and all this shit. And then it fixed itself. Anyways, we found new jobs for new things.
Yeah, we couldn't even have imagined the concept of the suburb at that time.
Exactly.
And cars, like we can't even imagine what this will bring for our society.
Gab, this has been, I think, one of the spiciest episodes ever. Like, it's gonna, if anything, be a hoot for me to edit and also like try to get us from like not talking over each other because we're all so excited and we knew it was gonna be this way and we did it anyway, and I love us for it. But we're just so grateful to have you on the show. Like, thank you for making the time. Like, congrats on Off the Record. But we've gone through all of these big concepts, big topics. Like, tell us, how are you dumb in private, Gab?
I am dumb in private so often. This morning I asked my daughter, who's almost 6, I was like, Jennings, what was the time that mom like did something dumb? And she goes, right now, you just said a bad word. So, but my newsletter subscribers will know this one. So she just started kindergarten and I am super cringy and made her like a felt board that was like first day of kindergarten. And I'm going to post the picture on the off the record community. And I'm typing out like Jennings' first day of kindergarten today. And it keeps like auto correcting the word kindergarten for me. And I'm like, kindergarten spelled with a T, not a D. It's kindergarten. I did the felt board wrong. So
Now the photo.
I misspelled kindergarten, which like if only I was a comms person and knew how to spell, I would have avoided this dumb in private. But I have, I'll age myself. I've always had spell check. So I don't know how to spell kindergarten.
The irony. The irony of spelling out kindergarten. Kindergarten, I agree. Like, let's just change it. Like, it shouldn't be a T. No one says kindergarten.
Here's the other thing.
Talk about it.
There's a hot take I have on this. Anything that just is easier spelt phonetically, like let's just accept how anyone else spells it phonetically. Perfect example. Can you, off the top of your head, spell diarrhea?
Or nausea.
Yeah. Why are they? Do you know what? It's so funny. And Gab, you're probably experiencing this too, but my little boy is in kindergarten. He's learning to read. And there's so many words where he's like, but that's not that sound. Like that's supposed to make a sh sound. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know why it's like that. I can't explain it.
I was going to say the same thing. My daughter's trying to write out words and everything's phonetic, but none of it is spelled right.
No.
Good luck.
Yep. And it's so funny because they're just like, that's supposed to be this sound. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But in this instance, it's not. And then he was like, but how do you know then? And I was like, yeah, buddy, I don't know. You just have to know. Like there's no rule. English language is fucked.
I'll change the rules.
It's very humbling having someone in kindergarten learning again because then you're like, oh God, yeah, I got to refresh my nouns, my verbs, my adjectives. Like it's just learning all the stuff. And he's frothing at the learning, but I'm like, oh, I don't know how to explain this one. Or like why words sound the same but are spelt differently and they mean different things. And he's like, but which one do you use? It's like, oh, you'll get there, buddy. Don't worry.
I just want to say before we close that I am so grateful that you all have started this podcast. I have been listening from the very first episode. I've learned so much from the banter between the two of you. Boyson, I am of the minority that I do like the episodes of the two of you all ranting.
Oh, that's
I love
good.
hearing from
Thank you.
experts too, but I'm a huge hot takes fan. So like, I just want to like on behalf of everyone in comms, like thank you all for opening this space for us to talk about the things that are really important to us. And I'm just incredibly like grateful to play a small part of it. I kind of am like pinching myself. I'm fangirling so hard right now.
Thank you. Oh man, that's
Thank you.
that makes me want to put a blanket over my head. But I love it.
We don't do well with like compliments. We get all. Yeah.
You did the right thing, which was just thank you. Right?
Yeah.
Like we sometimes are so bad at taking compliments that
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. It's a labor of love. So yes, much appreciated for the love and support.
And for all of you listening out there, like if you have a guest that you want to recommend or a topic that you want us to cover, please reach out to us at hello@smartandpublicpod.com. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Smart and Public Pod, and anywhere that you get your podcast. Please rate, review, subscribe, follow. It helps us out a lot. And thanks again, Gab, for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.